We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with Liberty Nation senior political analyst and longtime host of this here radio show, Mr. Tim Donner. Earlier in the show, we were talking about what the Iowa results really meant. Now I'd like to get on to the juicy little facts, the swing state polling, because that's where elections are won and lost, right, Tim?
That's where the rubber meets the road. And as much as people pay attention to the national polls, and understandably so, because it gives a general sense of the current approval of the two candidates head to head, it's the swing states where Trump really has the advantage, a lot more than the 1 point average advantage he has in national polls. Frankly, he's got margins in 4 different swing states that are outside the margin of error, which, if they hold up, will assure him of a second term, will assure him of victory, because, as you and I have discussed, in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, and Nevada, 4 states he lost in 2020, he has leads of 5 points or more. That's extremely significant. And he is essentially tied in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, neither of which would become pivotal if he wins those 4 states where he has the big commanding lead. So his overall lead in battleground states is more like 4 points when you put all the battleground states together, because here's the number that's most important, the way I see it, Mark, is the popular vote, actually. The most revealing, because in the entirety of 2016 and 2020, in both those campaigns, Trump never had a lead in the popular vote, never once. And yet he won in 16, and he almost won in 20. I mean, 40 or 50,000 votes in 3 states flipped, and Trump would have been reelected. This time, he's actually got a lead in the popular vote. And that really is grim news for Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Yeah, it seems that Democrats have an inbuilt advantage, really, with the popular vote.
Yes, because of California and New York. They get these huge tranches. Then they try to say, well, that means that we should get rid of the Electoral College, which is understandable because they've lost 2 elections.
Al Gore, Hillary Clinton.
Al Gore and Hillary Clinton both won the popular vote and lost the election. So you can understand the grudge that they hold against the Electoral College, which gives, by most accounts, gives the small red states collectively about a 36 vote advantage based on the size of population across the country. In other words, now what the left is doing is saying that these small states are overrepresented, right? Why should Wyoming have 3 electoral votes? They should have 1 or none, because we should get rid of the whole Electoral College so that the whole election could be held in New York, Chicago, and LA, where all the votes are congregated, because it's just, you just tally it up, and that's a real democracy.
The end result of that, though, Tim, is that, well, in that case, we just get rid of the Senate, right? Because that was the equalizer. So you've got the House, which represents your population, and then you've got the Senate. So we keep the House as it is, get rid of the Senate, and let's see how much legislation gets passed for Joe Biden, even with the 2-seat majority that the Republicans managing to cling on to. So, I want to talk about this blue wall idea. Now, I think it's 1992. You've had a collection of states that are reliably blue, and now that changed fractionally in 2016, with Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. All 3 are considered swing states. Now, Trump won those 3 in 2016, but lost them in 2020, as you point out, by tiny margins. Actually, I have the margins right here. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin was 3%, 1.2%, and 0.6% respectively, which is tiny, as you point out. It's a few thousand votes. So if Trump does follow as the polls say here, it's outside the margin of error in at least 4 of those. The national swing is with him, as you pointed out, including the popular vote. I think it's 1.1% at the moment. Now, with all that, could that be the end of it's 11 states, isn't it? It's 11 states that are considered the blue wall. And so do you think the idea of a blue wall is over? And is that because of Donald Trump, or is that because of the rise of independent voters who are sick of both Republicans and Democrats?
Well, I think, there's a sense that the sort of ideological direction of individual states are kind of set in stone. So we think of California as having always been this left-wing bastion, and New York as a place that probably never, ever voted for a Republican, and a place like Iowa, for example, where Republicans have run up big margins. You think a Democrat could never win there. But
Reagan lost. The only state Reagan didn't get was Iowa. Is that right? Or in DC?
Yeah, no, it was Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Sorry, Minnesota
was the only state he didn't win. So Reagan won California twice. George H.W. Bush won it in 1988. Yeah. So it shows you that there is evolution within individual areas and states. I think you see that now. Arizona and Georgia have become more blue. They're still leaning red. But in the case of Arizona, I think it's really more completely purple. Michigan is a funny case because Democrats dominate that state in terms of the Senate. Both senators and the governor and most of the members of Congress are Democrats, and yet Trump has done well in Michigan. And Michigan, I think we should focus some attention there because there's 300,000 Arab Americans in Michigan. Yes. And we all know how Arab Americans writ large feel about Biden's participation in the war in Israel and the fact that he has so sided, as they see it, with Israel, which is by most accounts the correct decision, but not one that's correct for Arab Americans writ large. So he's got a big problem there in Michigan. And look, Nevada's a place too where Democrats have done well. Hillary Clinton won it, Biden won it in 2020. But Trump now more than 5 points ahead in Nevada. So, these things change. States change, directions change. It's just that people are often not aware of that fact.
Tempus mutanda, I believe it is in Latin. Tim Donner, thanks ever so much. We'll be right back with Tim after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril. Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are libertynation.com.